Hello, it's Nikki, and thank you so much for coming back. If you haven't listened to part 1, I would highly suggest that you do if you're going to listen to this one, because otherwise it probably won't make much sense. In these episodes, I am documenting my process that I've been through over the last 12 months. And as I mentioned in part 1, this is not a salacious, oh my goodness, let me tell you everything about what this coach did or didn't do. Unfortunately, it's not that exciting. But what may be useful, and what you've told me is useful, because I've had so many messages. Thank you so much for letting me know. I always love to know your thoughts. That this is quite interesting, because it's really hard to know where to put your money. And I say that like we're all sitting in palaces counting our gold. But what I mean by it is that we're in a situation where we can generate money. And if we want to grow, sometimes it can be confusing or overwhelming, like what's going to be a good use of my time and my effort and all of that. So I thought just by documenting this process, it may be useful, and you might be able to pull bits out that are going to work for you. So in part 1, I shared my first 6 things that I realized. I thought, let's just choose 12 because there's 12 months, but it wasn't in chronological order. Oh, wow. I can't even speak. Chronological order. My goodness me. But I just thought that it would be really nice just to hone a few points there. Okay, number 7. I have written down, you will have ebbs and flows, and pace and results will vary. This was really because I think it's this moment that suddenly okay, let's go back to a good analogy for this. I thought when I turned 18, I would have all my life figured out because there's this kind of pressure, isn't there? On your 18th birthday, people go, oh, you're a grown up now. Oh, legal age. What are you going to do? And there's part of you that goes, I don't know, because yesterday I was 17 and I was feeling quite comfortable. And now you're saying 18, I'm feeling all kinds of pressure, thanks very much. And I'm not sure if I like it. So the reason that I'm saying this is there was part of me that just thought, okay, I would almost start on 1 and I would end a year later on 100. Like it would just be like, I'm going up, I'm doing this, off we go, it will be fine and no problem. And actually it wasn't. Having that container of a year was so powerful in being able to bring me back, because of course I'm a human being, and at the time of signing up in something in January, February, I did not think that come March we would all be at home in lockdown. Now that might be naive, because you'd be like, did you not watch the news, Nikki? Did you not see what was coming? But again, I think it was a bit of a shock still. And it took a bit of adjustment. It took a settling in period. And I did have a couple of weeks in March where I thought, oh my goodness, have I made a big mistake here? What's going to happen? Are we, all of the things that so many of us thought, are we going to be all right as a family? Have I put myself in a position where we are financially at risk? Or, all sorts of things went through my head. And what I had to do very quickly with this ebb and flow is get back to a place of feeling grounded and going, no, well, you've paid the money anyway, you've signed a contract, so you're going to have to find the money and you're going to have to make it work. And once I held myself in that situation and got grounded again, and also was in a headspace of knowing that I could pay attention to what I was absorbing. And very quickly I was like, I need to turn off this news. I need not to be on WhatsApp groups all day long. I need to get some proper rest. I need to take care of myself. We need to go slowly but surely through this. It's kind of like that moment, when you're waiting on a train platform and you're all sitting in the waiting room and somebody gets up and they're checking the train. Oh no, it's still not coming. Somebody else gets up. And then suddenly there's an announcement and somebody says it's delayed. And then people suddenly, oh, it's delayed. Oh, I'm going to miss this. And the energy shifts in the room. And before you know it, somebody goes, this train is always delayed. For the last 20 years, I've been getting on this exact train and it's never been on time. And suddenly the mood from a very sort of casual situation changes. And I know that. I know how that can get into my psyche. I know I can suck that energy up and I need to be really careful with it. And so as much as I would love to share that every single month I built and built and built, and every month was better and brighter and more aligned and gorgeous, it wasn't. And there were some absolutely tremendous months. But then there were just some okay months of like putting one foot in front of the other. But if you know and you followed for a while, you know that I'm not just a case of ticking boxes or reaching a sexy number so I can share that with people. I have other needs and other values and other things that need my attention and are markers of success. So I needed to make sure that my kids were happy and that my partner was okay and that we were figuring it out and, you know, that we were taking care of each other. I think that was really important. So although there are times on paper where I could have gone, I'm going to do a launch. And some people would have been like, you are so lazy for not doing a launch. You get back out there and hustle harder. I didn't want to. I didn't have the energy. I couldn't muster it up. But what I did do was go, right, how can I still be in the game? How can I do that? Where do I need work? How can I take care of myself through that process? And so the ebbs and flows were really interesting to pay attention to, because you think if you sign up for a 12-month program, you're just going to be building and building and working and getting bigger and better every single day. And on one level I was, because I was learning and I was there in that space. But there were some times where I needed to rest. Like an athlete, you know, you're not just going to get faster and faster every single day. Sometimes you're going to have a bit of a wonky knee and you need to sit down for a bit and take it easier and do something else to support that growth. However, I will say, being in that container, being in that situation, there were some things that I did that were in the 2-year plan. The 2-year plan that hadn't quite materialized itself or figured itself out in my head just yet. And then I did it in a week. Literally, like, okay. Oh, okay. I've done that. Oh, that feels good. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. So this ebb and flow thing, it was a case of sometimes just being in the game. And I think we all have to be careful sometimes where we set these goals so high, where we say, right, in the next 10 years, or when we retire, or when the kids are a bit older, we can make these really lofty goals. And sometimes that process speeds up really quickly. And you have to pay attention to that possibility, because it is possible to do crazy things in short amount of time. Now, I do have to be careful here, because I know, maybe you know, examples of this, people who have sped up so quickly on the internet and have gone through enormous growth and they haven't been able to keep up, and they have had disappointed clients and all kinds of things have occurred. And I keep coming back to the fact that I do want to be in this game for the next 20 years. Like, I do want to have a career. I always want to work for myself. This is not just I'll just do this for a couple more years and then I'll get my real job. No, this is about building. This is about building a body of work. And so I've really learned that I have to pace myself. I have to take care of myself. And if that means going slower sometimes, it means you can speed up quicker down the line. So one thing that I've had now is, because I've gone slowly but surely for nearly 10 years, some things just come into my inbox now and people go, where can I sign up? Can I join the thing? Can we go? And I'm like, but we haven't really had a conversation. They're like, no, I'm ready. You're the person. Let's go. So trusting in that ebb and flow, trusting in that process, and also giving yourself that wiggle room is really important. Number 8. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I kept asking myself this question all the time. And it's weird when you talk to yourself, but I do. I do it all the time because I'm so self-aware for the most part. And I know myself so well. And this is the question. When I was thinking about this mindset piece, this is the question that kept coming up. Nikki, how long are you going to let this story lead? And that story was the limiting belief. That story was the old me, or maybe it wasn't even me. It was the version or the perception that somebody had of me that kind of lumped on me and sort of went, this is who we think you are. And even when, I remember it a few times as a kid when people were like, oh, you're exactly the same as me. Oh, you're like me. I remember even as a kid thinking, I don't think I am. Oh, no, I'm not sure. And this feels a bit weird that you're being so sure and I'm being so sure about my own opinion as well. But one thing I did realise was, and this is your time just to send some small ears, maybe out of the room or just press pause a moment. Ladies and gents, I was carrying a lot of shit around. Emotional shit, damaging shit, unhelpful shit. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, who do you think? All these stories. And stories that I didn't even know that I had, which is so weird because, again, I've done this personal development work and there were so many things that were so ingrained. And you know what? It wasn't necessarily, you know, when people say affirmations where they say, money is coming to me in expected and unexpected ways. And that is their mantra. And that's how they get that out there. And some people have the opposite. They have that limiting belief where they say, I believe money doesn't grow on trees. And I wouldn't have said that I had those limiting beliefs where I say, no, Nikki, it's because you're ginger, you can't do that. Like I didn't feel like I had those things to hand. But that's when I realised they were ingrained in me. They were in my body. So there'd be sometimes things that I knew I had to do. I knew it. Of course I did. Like I had the strategy, next thing on my list, but I resisted so hard. And I had to go, what is happening here? Why? And it was only until I started to pull it apart and go, okay, so it's not just a phrase. It's not just a limiting belief. It felt like, if I gave it a matter, like it felt like heavy tar or stone or metal, like really solid bits in my body, deep within my soul that needed to be shifted. And so it almost felt like I had to get a concrete mixer and really smash through. And we know what concrete mixers sound like. Of course we do. I mean, maybe I've hung out with my 5-year-old on too many building sites, but we know what it's like when we hear that, like, and that's not a very good impression, I'm sorry. And you can see it. You can see the smoke coming off it. You can see the dust. It's making a horrible noise. People, as they're going past, are going, oh gosh, that's loud, isn't it? That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. I had to go deep into the foundations of who I was and go, what is this story? Where is this come from? And it was really uncomfortable at times. It really was. And it took me back to some really horrible places, actually. I had some really terrible dreams. I did that awful thing, you know, that you see in films where people are lying and then they suddenly wake up and go, That's what happened a lot. And it was really ugly. But by asking that question where I invited myself to look at it, so instead of saying, oh, I maybe shouldn't do that today, every time I had a resistance, I had an obstacle, I was procrastinating, instead of sitting with it, I asked for help. And whether that was asking my coach, like, can you just help me figure out what this is? Can you ask me some questions? Can you help me dig a bit deeper into this? Or sometimes it was me going, I need to explore this. I need to write some stuff down here, or I need to run and keep asking the question, or I have to explore it. And it wasn't just one of those things that I knew that could just stay the same. Because if I was going to dig down into those foundations to build some new ones, I had to really explain them and get to know them. So again, it wasn't a mermaid experience where I felt so empowered. My goodness me, it was ugly at times. Okay, number 9, I kept the vision shining brightly. And this is really important when I work with clients. This is why I go into a pageant mom scenario. Because after coaching for nearly 10 years, thousands of people around the world, I know, even though you'd think it would be easy, I know that for so many of us, it's really hard to exclaim and declare and celebrate what we want. Yeah, I'm pausing there. It takes so much to say, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be in the world. This is what I think that I deserve. All of that stuff. It's really, really triggering to say that. Because what happens whenever somebody says, like, because I'm that person, go, tell me what you want to do. Go on, tell me. Pageant mom coming out to play. Yeah, tell me more. Because that stuff I absolutely love. When I see that shift, when I hear that excitement in their voice, when I see that sparkle in their eyes, where they suddenly thought, oh my goodness, I haven't felt like this for a long time. That's when I'm like, tell me more. Let's turn the brightness up on this vision. That's when it's so exciting. And then what follows is, or something similar to that, or, oh, well, if I can get half of that, then I'll be happy. Or, well, I don't know, really. I mean, maybe I should just, I don't want to be disappointed, so I don't want to get my expectations too big. But this is what I want to say. You have to have a really bright, exciting, amazing vision. And that doesn't have to look glossy and incredible to anybody else, but it has to for you. Because, friends, it is easier to stay the same. It's easier to be comfortable. Of course it is. It's easier to stay in bed and watch telly and have lovely food and be snuggly under a duvet. Of course it's easier. But I know that you want more. And so did I. And so on those days where I wanted to have a toddler tantrum, I mean, let's be honest, it's not an attractive state, but hopefully I'm not the only one that goes to that place sometimes. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I had to have that vision shining brightly. And I had to make that vision not just about me. I had to make it about other people. I had to think about that ripple effect. I had to have a word with myself and say, come on, what is going on here? I had to have a stern word with myself. You know, like you see women in toilets on nights out, not that I've had a night out for a while, where they go, you're going to have to get yourself sorted and get your coat on because we need to get in a taxi. Maybe you have been that woman or you've told that woman. I had to talk to myself in that stern voice of, you've got a computer, you've got a brain, see what you can do with it, love. Come on. So that shining brightly was so important, because when we go through growth, we go back into old habits. Like, I don't want to do it. Oh gosh, maybe it isn't meant for me. And everything gets really complicated and emotional, and it brings out all our stuff. So for my own benefit, I had to keep that vision shining brightly. Also, when you're doing growth, it takes extra work. I was doing stuff in the evenings, of course I was, and trying to fit stuff around and taking time away from my kids. So ultimately, it has to be worth it in the end. And I had to sometimes explain what that vision was to them. They are 19 months and 5. So my little one is just, happy to go along with the flow. But my 5-year-old has got questions. He wants to know. He asks really insightful things. And I'm definitely at a point, as maybe you are with your kids, where you have to answer. You have to answer honestly and kindly and with integrity. And they demand that of you. It's an interesting thing. Oh my goodness. Remember those times where it's like, oh, what car seat am I going to put them in? And then Oscar the other day was like, can you tell me about space? And I thought, oh gosh, we'll read the book together. Let's do that. Let's read the book together. Okay, talking about children, I had to pay, this is number 10, I had to pay close attention to my needs like a carer would to a child. Again, what did this bring up? This brung up, oh my gosh, this brought up, ladies and gents, this brought up the fact that I hadn't paid attention to all of my needs for a long time. Yeah, there you go, said it. I was in a trap of, oh, it's all right, I don't mind, oh, it doesn't matter, no, it's cool, oh, well, yeah, I'll take what's ever left. Right? Anybody in that situation sometimes where you take the scraps, or you don't mind, or you just get used to it. You just get used to kind of bobbing along. And then suddenly what happens is you get used to not doing that until you break. And then you realize your needs are not being paid attention to in any shape or form. And so as I went through this growth, because it felt really uncomfortable and really painful, and I felt in a rush and in a hurry, and I very quickly went into that, oh my goodness, I've got to get my money's worth, and I've got to do all these things, and I've got to, even though there's a pandemic going on and everybody's at home, I've got to work till midnight. Old stories. I had to pay close attention to myself like a toddler. Again, I'm going to do this creepy thing where I talk to myself like, Nikki, what do you need? Nikki, why are you sad? Nikki, are you hungry? Nikki, do you need to go to bed? Nikki, go and sit quietly. Go and have some time out. Are you hungry again? Yes. All of the above. And do you know what? By doing those very small moments of paying attention to myself, I started to get to know myself again. I started to know what I liked and what I needed. And I got to know my creative flow. I got to know which time of days I worked really well. And so we were able to create a bit of a schedule so everybody got what they needed from the day. And also, I got to know when I really worked best and what would be helpful and where things were falling through. And it would only be like a month later, I was like, oh, that's why that happened. Or even getting a Fitbit at Christmas, I noticed my sleep in December. I was like, oh, no wonder I don't feel good. I'm not sleeping very much. Oh, right. And then I started analysing things like, well, there's all kinds of percentages on the Fitbit. And to be honest, there are some nights where I don't wear it at all because it can be a bit depressing. But, there is a percentage for your age range about how much deep sleep that you should be getting every night. And when I was like, oh, I am right at the minimum here, I need to pay attention to this. I need to take care of myself. So when you're growing, you have to sometimes explain to those people around you, not everybody, because not everybody needs to know this much information, but sometimes you need to say, this is happening for me at the moment. And so is there a way that you can support me in X, Y, and Z? Or sometimes if I knew that I had something coming up, or if I had a call with my coach that day, I would say to Matty, would you mind doing dinner tonight? And not that I'm asking permission or anything like that, but we tend to juggle most things and share most things. But sometimes, like if he can help me out and vice versa, we absolutely will do that. But yeah, paying attention to my needs. And it made me hyper aware of what was working and what wasn't. And therefore it made me empowered to make decisions about how I wanted to work and live. and I try to do it from the best possible way. And even though sometimes I'd be like, oh gosh, could I really do that? I try to lean in with the vision and go, well, maybe if it keeps coming up, maybe this is meant to be the right thing. So yeah, changing that was really quite transformational. Number 11, I needed to move, and the moving has become, it's been absolutely integral to the process. And I looked at my Fitbit at the end of February or mid-February, and I'd run the length, or walked or moved, because I have it on all day, the length of the London Underground in about 8 weeks. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, I did need to move. And I needed to make it a priority. And it's this weird thing with movement with me, that I always was a dancer when I was a kid. So I used to dance 3 or 4, sometimes even more times a week. And I was always that kid, you know, like moving or standing in a corridor, like me and my pals, like 6, 7, 8, going over stuff in our heads and really enjoying that process. And I realized that it healed me so much as a kid, and it gave me somewhere where I could just let that energy out. And then, of course, as you get older, going to the gym becomes a big thing of like, oh, I'll go to the gym so I can have an extra glass of wine at the weekend. Or it becomes about getting into a bikini or being beach body ready or whatever shite these magazines tell you. And one thing I've realized is sometimes for me, it needs to be a repetitive movement so I can feel something leave my body. Through movement, I process information. So if I'm struggling with something or something needs to come out, I need to move, and I need to sometimes that's like literally 10 minutes moving, walking round the block. But it's absolutely key. So if you're ever going through huge growth, give yourself that time to be able to move. And I know it can be tempting to say, but I just don't have time. My goodness, I'm so stretched. Then whatever it is, like even while I'm not a fitness expert, my goodness, why am I giving these tips out? But even when you're making a cup of tea and you're waiting for the kettle to boil, like dance on the spot, or just like shake your arms, shake your legs, do the hokey cokey, whatever it might be, but move, because your body is crying out for it to do its job, to process the information, to get things moving and shaking. So 11 was absolutely key, and I will absolutely continue that as well. And you know, even when I was on a holiday, the temptation, the old thing is like, oh, you get beach body ready, and then you sit on a sun lounger for a week or two, and you eat all the stuff, and then you get back, and then you go, oh gosh, I better do something about this. And actually, when I went on holiday last year, I took my running stuff and I ran along the beach, and it was so good. I absolutely loved it. Also, final thing on that, it also kept me in a creative headspace. So when I came back, not only was I rested, but I had loads of ideas as well. So that felt really good. Okay, number 12. Number 12. Yeah, gosh, this makes me emotional. Doing this for a year and showing up and giving myself a container made me bet on myself again. And I realized that I needed that. I needed to remind myself that I could do what I wanted to do, and that I was capable. And by showing up and reaching that target of doing the work, making the payments, saying I'm worthy or worth it of that, it gave me confidence again. And I think it can be really easy to just shuffle through life, because there's always something to do, there's always a thing, there's always something. But unless you're really intentional, unless you're really clear, like, is this what I want to be doing? Is this the exact version that I really wanted to make happen? And if it isn't, what am I going to do about it? And I think this sense where, you suddenly win a competition or something happens, or do you know what? I had this really dark, awful feeling where I thought, I don't want to get ill and something happened to me. And then that, at the end of it, is the moment where I go, gosh, you really do only live once. I better do something about this. That's where my head went. Isn't that awful? Where I was thinking, gosh, what would happen if I got ill? And I just thought, no, I need to be really intentional about this. I need to trust that inner part of me that knows, like you will have that too for you, that knows that you can do really great things. Despite what the current circumstances, despite the mad, crazy times we've had over the last couple of years, that you can do it. And I'm saying you can do it. I'm saying it in that way because saying out loud just feels so simple. Like, yeah, just do it. But we all know there's more to it than that. But you can. And sometimes it is that commitment of saying, am I all in? Am I actually doing this, or am I dabbling? Because I can bet that there are so many areas in life for most of us where we're dabbling, where we're saying, oh, we're just going to do it a bit now and we'll see what happens. And then I'll come back to it at a later date. And it's a bit in, out, shake it all about. But I want you to think and take away from this, like, what would be really helpful for you? And not only get clear on what would be helpful, but what is it that's going to really make your heart sing? Because it's there. If I always work on that basis, that it almost needs to be, on makeover shows where they have like a revolving stage and they're behind the mirror and then they turn it around, ooh, and the person comes round the front. That's how I see my hopes and dreams and desires now. Like, I can see them on the wall and I'm just waiting for them to turn round. And sometimes I'm going to have to shove that thing round so they can move around quicker. But no, darling, we're going into ease and flow. Of course we are. We're not shoving anything. But that's how I like to see them now. And for a long time, I wouldn't even put anything on that wall. Because I was like, there's probably not anything on the other side anyway. Probably not. But there is. All of us. We've got all of those things. And if it's in your body, you've already thrown it out there. So you may as well play the game of, I wonder when it's going to come round. I wonder when that revolving stage is going to come round and reveal exactly what I want in exactly the form that I want it in. How exciting. Because then what happens is it just becomes a game. It becomes playful. Options kind of open up to you and you're like, oh, I wonder which way it's going to come and what it's going to look like. Is it going to be today? And suddenly what happens is you start to get a bit of a high vibe existence. That's very manifestation coach of me. Suddenly you start to feel good. And suddenly you start to smile at people in the street or bump into somebody you haven't seen for a while. And they go, do you know what? I was thinking of you today. And I was wondering, are you taking on any clients at the moment? Because you're in that place of possibility. There's an episode I did a few months back called You Don't Need a Marketing Plan, You Need an Energy Plan. And I couldn't agree more with this. So think about what your energy is. Think about what container you want to have. And are you saying that you are important? Now, that's not to say if you've got small people who live in your house or a partner or, family or whatever your circumstances, that you go, guys, this is all about me now. This is about my desires and what I want. You don't have to go into that pantomime villain version of yourself. But please just be in the game. At least serve yourself some food. Don't be like I don't know if your mum was like this. Like, oh no, everybody eat. I'll eat later. Everybody eat. No. Everybody take their seat at the table. Sit down, enjoy the food, have your portion and more if you want it. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I know that I'm going to have a bit of a vulnerability hangover tomorrow because I feel like I've shared a lot, but it's important. It's really important. Before you do the next thing that you know that you're supposed to do, before you sign that contract or before you set up a direct debit or whatever it might be, we have to come from a place of discernment. And I want to let you know that spending a big load of money on something, of course it's scary because we weren't necessarily, well, I wasn't not taught how to handle spending big amounts of money on things. There was no financial education at my school. But I did have to listen to that instinct of, you've got to do this. Because if you're going to play a bigger game requires different rules, requires different numbers, different energies, different people, different vibe. And I didn't want to play in the position that I was playing previously. Not because it was wrong or inadequate, but because I was excited for more. I'd had a little glimpse of something else and I wanted to explore that. Anyway, thank you for being with me today. I'd love to know your thoughts on this and what you're going to do with it and take away with it. If you would like to send this to a friend, you know I would love you forever. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good, lovely stuff. It really helps to grow the podcast. I'm sending you so much love from here. And if you've listened to this and you're like, oh gosh, I don't feel like I'm in a position to make a decision or anything like that, take that pressure off making the decision. Just allow yourself to play. Ooh, what could I do? How could I think about it? And just sit and start planting seeds. You don't have to go and do anything scary or anything today, but start to open up yourself to the possibility and see what comes. I can't wait to hear all about it. Thank you once again for being with me. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you next week. Bye.